In the distant future, vampires rule the night, but their numbers are dwindling. One podcast is unlike all the others. Half human, half vampire. This is Lefty Speaks, the official podcast for Vampire Hunter D.
Welcome back to Lefty Speaks, the Vampire Hunter D podcast, episode 5. Thank you again for joining us, hunters.
So I think we're talking about Kikuchi's other works, which I know, as many of us, a lot about, the Vampire Hunter D series, both here in America and in Japan. But I don't, I didn't until just recently know much about his other works, and both of you guys know. I'm excited to hear about Brandon's your experience with that, because I need to dig in.
Okay, so I mentioned in a previous episode that I used to work for a chain of anime stores back when that could actually be a thing. It was called Anime Crash, and eventually it turned into Crash Entertainment. And they were based in New York, Providence, Rhode Island, and Boston, Massachusetts, specifically Harvard Square. I worked at the Harvard Square store. And a lot of the stuff that we sold, there were certain things that always sold through. Ninja Scroll, Akira, what else I'm trying to remember all the things that were big then. Ghost in the Shell, just a ton of stuff. Because Gundam really wasn't available in the late 90s as much as it was in the early 2000s. But Wicked City, which I had no idea was Kikuchi at all until we started talking about this recently. But Wicked City, out of everything, that was kind of like one of the not big titles, but that would sell through all the time. And it took me a while to even watch it because the box art, the cover art for the for the VHS, it didn't really draw me in until I actually watched it at home one night. And I was absolutely stunned by the visual sophistication, the horror element of it, the Tokyo Noir, which was a reflection of the city beat, moment in time in Japan. It was just absolutely interesting. And even though it wasn't Vampire Hunter D, I, now knowing who made it, you can feel that kind of dark, sensual, gothic vibe, soak through the artwork and the storytelling. So Wicked City was one that spoke to me without even me realizing who the creators were at the time.
Now, are any of those available now? Because obviously we've got the holidays coming up, and I'm going to have some free time. Finally.
Yes, so Wicked City is available for streaming on Hideyuki.
Oh, right. I actually have a membership that I never use. Wow.
I still have an active subscription with them. I wish they had more content. I want to support Hideyuki because it's them, Crunchyroll, and piracy now.
Hulu has a lot of anime.
Yep, it does. It does. I rewatched all Naruto on Hulu. And,
Hulu has a lot, but I guess that they got money because they license a crap ton of anime.
Yeah,
okay.
Like Silver Lake Ramen, my favorite ramen shop in Los Angeles, did a collaboration with Naruto, and so I rewatched. Oh my gosh! If you didn't know, wow, it was. Yeah, I've got a Naruto shirt, Naruto hat. I've got it all. I went and got a Naruto ramen bowl. Yeah,
okay. This shows you how out of touch I am on this, because I know Netflix has a bunch of anime.
They do.
I know Amazon Prime has added some, but they really pulled back after they made a big push for doing an anime channel, their own anime, bunch of stuff, and then they just pulled the plug on it. And until recently, there wasn't a lot there. I've loved seeing Vox Machina.
Yeah,
that's on Prime, but okay. Hulu.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed
Hulu has a lot.
with Hulu has a lot of the stuff that isn't as mainstream. We all know about Naruto, but how many of you have seen Boruto? As the whole series with his son, and that's on Hulu as well. So, and it comes out first in Japanese with
Yeah.
subtitles, and then, I mean, if there's enough of a demand, then it comes out dubbed. But for me, I'm excited to, review my Japanese while like, wait, what did it say? There's no background watching when you're trying to watch something in a foreign language. Like, I got to actually pay full attention, which is nice. No multitasking.
Yeah. So I know Wicked City is available. I'm not sure if A Wind Named Amnesia, because it's crazy the sequence these were made in, because VHD was first. Let's see here. Wicked City, I want to say, was late 80s. I want to say 87, 88. Wind Named Amnesia was early 90s, I think.
Well, the cool thing again about us having a Discord is that all this information, even if we don't know it off the top of our head, we can present it in the Discord for everyone to check. And I know I use Discord. Our fans, the other people that are in there, there's great conversations. That I'm learning things all the time in our Discord. So it'll be a nice place to reference where we can find stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And A Wind Named Amnesia is available for streaming on Crunchyroll.
Nice. Very nice.
So High Dive if you want to watch Wicked City, Crunchyroll if you want A Wind Named Amnesia. And it looks like the internet is telling me that Demon City Shinjuku is available for Tubi, Pluto, and Amazon Prime.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
So I believe the only Kawajiri Kikuchi team-up movie that you can't legally stream in the US right now is Bloodlust.
Wow, really?
So sad. So sad.
Well, the Blu-ray is available. I mean, still,
Blu-ray,
thank
yeah.
God.
You can get the Blu-ray for either of them. So there's options.
I think physical media is the way to go.
No,
Trust me on that.
Always. I mean, and I was actually going to mention that earlier, but I think, obviously first always go with a legal option if you absolutely, whenever you can. And also for anything that you're truly passionate about, you should always get the physical media. I mean, ideally a DVD, a Blu-ray, a CD for music. I mean, I love my Spotify, but anytime I find someone that a group or a musician that or a soundtrack.
This is the
the
soundtrack.
video games.
It's
I
CD
buy
from Japan.
physical. Yep. And the reason is because as we've already seen that shift, right?
Yep.
We've already seen the shift where they want streaming. We've already seen video games, companies saying, "Hey, you don't really own the game; you're licensing the game." We're like, no. So buy the physical media whenever you can. I still have like an old Neverwinter Nights version that I whip up and play from 2000, almost 25 years ago. And, the original game is, in my opinion, better than the newer versions that came out later on. So any movie, music, series that you really love, and I would say the same thing is going to happen because we do see a big shift to digital comics, digital publications. And if you can get the physical media of it, if you really love it, get it, because you never know when it's going to get yanked off whatever.
It will. It will.
No, it will.
Yanked.
It will.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney is famous for doing that. Decades before we start. They've been doing it for a long time. Oh, well, we're not going to release this movie for 20 years. So yeah, physical media, people, please.
That makes me think of some of the different things you can buy that just get. In some ways, it feels like a really sad rug pull when you lose access to certain things. And it's just poof.
Yeah,
And
I
you're
mean,
like, man,
yeah.
I really like that. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, I love writing to game music. You know, I mean, just recently, I got the Assassin's Creed, you know,
Nice.
soundtrack. I love listening. I've got every one of their soundtracks, and I mean, it's not the only one. God of War. I mean, Mountain Blade 2. I mean, all of them. I
Warhammer
love.
has great music too.
Yeah, it does, and
40K.
especially I think for creative people in the industry, you know, artists, writers, you know, I mean, it's great music because it's not distracting, but it's still uplifting at the same time. I mean, I love it as, I mean, I 24 hours a day practically. And so again, physical media, because again, it can disappear at any point, you know. And I have friends that make music, and they were and I'm only repeating what they told me because this didn't happen to me, but they said there was an update of the Apple into a new Apple software, and so the Apple software in iTunes or Apple Music, they removed all the music that they had that they didn't have kind of like the digital code of purchase. So not only did they like, well, I've got like 3,000 CDs that I've put into my hard drive, you know, that I've downloaded into my computer. All of those were gone because it doesn't have that digital code showing that they bought it from Apple, right? But they also lost the music that they made, the, because they
Wow.
didn't have a purchasing code in the music of the songs that they wrote and put. So like, wow, okay. So again, I don't know if that problem has been fixed or not, but it just shows, you know, physical media. If you can get hard copy of stuff, do. Yeah.
Well, if you look at music sales today, I saw an article the other day talking about how vinyl records have had a massive resurgence. And there is something I loved when I was a kid. There is something amazing for the sound, if you've got the ear for it, of a good record player for vinyl. And there's, if you haven't seen it, go check out a group called Tiger Lab. Tiger Labs, they made limited run pressings of the soundtracks for vinyl for both the 85 VHD movie and Bloodlust. And they've done a whole plethora of other productions. And if they sell out, they'll look like, you know, if we sell out, then, you know, there's a chance we'll remake if there's enough interest or demand. One of the worst things you could do if you're making goods is make a bunch of them that you're then stuck with, that are sitting on the shelf trying to sell through. That's the funny balance with manufacturing, is trying to estimate your demand. To your point earlier of Kickstarter and effectively kind of semi-pre-ordering for the creation, you know how many you need to make, how many more you might need to make after that. That really helps a business out, because if you make too little or too much, both are bad, but it's really hard to find that middle ground.
Yeah,
But
and it's even worse, just to jump in, it's even worse when the distributor or the publisher has an agreement with stores that they take returns. Because, for example, like a small movie like Sushi Girl, they, like, Walmart bought 90,000 copies. And we were just like, wow, that's great. I mean, that's on par with a big movie. But a few months later, when they were actually releasing them, the DVD market just dropped. This was in like 2012, right? Just completely tanked. And so, like, even popular movies were sitting on the shelves. And, my movie was small, so most people didn't. So the returns were astronomical. I mean, like they got more than half back. and that's really bad. And the same thing for for books and other media. So it's a difficult thing to
Well,
guess.
I have a question then, and I've seen this discussed in our various media here. How much of an impact does it actually make when somebody in North America buys from, let's say, Amazon JP? Like if they buy like any of the Vampire Hunter D stuff that's untranslated, does that actually make an impact in getting more stuff over here or not?
I honestly I don't know. That could to me that would be an interesting question to discuss with a publication company in Japan.
That would be something good for us.
I've never talked to Asahi Shimbun, Kikuchi-san's publisher. If that's something they would be willing to discuss and address, I think that would be a fascinating topic to dive into just in general. I just have no
I mean,
idea.
I agree, because when we're making Resident Evil and Silent Hill, I often spoke with Japanese representatives from the Capcom and Konami when they would come to the movie set, and I was always fascinated. I was learning so much about that impact, international versus sales in Japan and everything. So I think that is a fantastic idea to talk to the publishers and find this stuff out, because that's I also don't know. I mean, each ecosystem is different, right? I mean, movies are different from TV, from television and streaming and theatrical, and books. They're all different. They all have, they're all connected in some way, but they're all their own beast with their own, how they monetize things and how, yeah, I'd be very curious to find that out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I would find interesting is what is the thing that influences. I know the for Vampire Hunter D, that movie really grabbed a lot of attention, and I'll leave this for Kevin to talk about when we record our session with him here in a couple of weeks. I remember hearing some of his stories on him being a fan and wanting to translate D into English. And I don't think most people know just how much of an impact that had in it actually happening. And Brandon, you had mentioned, Wicked City, gaining popularity for its film. But as far as I'm aware, good luck getting the books outside of Japan, particularly after the amount of time that's gone by, because there were 11 Wicked City books. And in hearing Kevin's description of the Treasure Hunter series, I would be fascinated to try and get my hands on it if I were able to read it. But I would need somebody who's way better at being multilingual than I am to make that possible. And that is something I would love to see, if we could learn more of what pushes a Japanese publisher to try and find a localization partner, because it's a ton of work. Like I've seen some of the localization because obviously a bunch of us are big board game geeks. I've talked with a couple of publishers about the difficulty of localization, particularly because you've got 4 times the work, 5 times the work, however many languages you do for proofreading, making sure the layout works, because in certain languages you need more or less space, so you've got to adjust around that. Then you've got to have separate print runs because they've got to reset everything to run through it. So you have the expense of, okay, we had to stop the machine and retool it to print everything with this other language. And so yeah, it is a tall order to do. So I'm very curious what is the justification, yes, criteria for doing it. And I remember having a conversation with a VHD fan from a Scandinavian country, and talking about how they never expected, most things to get localized in their own language because of the population of so many of these niche languages. Because outside of, let's see here, English, Mandarin Chinese, if I believe, are two of the most commonly spoken languages around the world. And after that, it's Spanish. And Spanish is very prolific around the world. But per capita, if I'm remembering my linguistic facts correctly. But for a lot of other languages, you're talking a territory, a country where it's based. And if your country is, if you look at some of the European countries, Southeast Asian countries, Vietnamese is spoken in Vietnam, or people that have moved to other countries. But so it's not a huge language. So if it's not created in your local language, there's not the population base to really justify bringing in a whole adaptation for what you got to go through for that. So I mean, that is a lot to dig through. I suppose that's something we'll have to punt the discussion on and try to find some publishing expert to weigh in on.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting topic to talk to someone who has firsthand experience in that. I mean, again, each one of these ecosystems is so. I mean, there might be some transferable understanding of how the business models work, but they're just so unique unto themselves with their own challenges that I find it absolutely fascinating to learn more about that. And since D originates in book form, in novel form, everything spawns from that. I think that's a really interesting avenue to go to focus on, like one episode.
And one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm hoping everyone will join us on, is we'll be doing a episode with Kevin Leahy, the guy who's translated all of the Vampire Hunter D novels for English, which is proliferated around the world and helped push Vampire Hunter D's widespread just acceptance, large fandom. If you would like to be able to submit questions for Kevin, go through our links, check out the Patreon. You can join, link your Discord account. You've got a week free on the Patreon. So if you want to just check it out, submit some questions, vote, leave us a comment, awesome. We'd love to have you join us, participate, take advantage of the free week 7 trial. I wish we could do more. As far as I am aware, on Patreon, we cannot en masse give away a full free month. They only allow a 7-day trial. We tried, and as far as we've been told, if you're a new creator on Patreon, you can't do a couple of things. Give away more blanket free memberships for longer than a week, and you can't have annual billing. To enable annual billing, which for me works great on some of the groups I've supported for years, you can only do that after you've been active, monetized, past a certain level for 3 months. Only then can you turn on annual billing. I have no idea what their reasoning is for that. I'm assuming they've got good reason for it, but so that's where we're at with Patreon. So if you want to take advantage of the free week, please do so. It's the best within our limited means that we can make available. Join us, ask some questions, be a participant in our discussion with Kevin Leahy. And I'm really looking forward to him being able to share some of the stories from over the years of getting Vampire Hunter D into English, the different parties that, you know, he and Kikuchi-san have hosted in Tokyo for fan events. It's, I mean, we're talking many, many years of history for this franchise that Kevin has been such a major part of. And following Kevin and his podcast recording session, we're going to be talking with a couple of fan creators. And I'm really looking forward to that. We have some amazing costume and cosplay creators that we'll be talking with as well. That's one of the things we really look forward to encouraging and supporting is, again, that passion that brings us all together for love of some of these same properties and IPs. That's, you know, if you're going to a comic or anime convention, that's why we're going. And, you know, we've got a passion for it. And I have just incredible respect for people who can create that kind of amazing art. And God bless you people who are willing to put on and put the blood, sweat, and tears into making these giant costumes and wear them to Anime Expo in Los Angeles in July.
Yeah,
That,
right.
That is some literal
That's
blood,
dedication.
sweat, and tears.
Yeah, that is more like sweat.
Yeah.
Yes, that is buckets. That is some buckets of sweat. Drink water, folks. Drink water, not booze.
I have two questions for him, you know, and I think, Scott, maybe you could answer the first one. The original novels, are they written in hiragana and kanji?
I believe that the original novels have a good bit of kanji in them. Actually,
Okay.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking.
Because
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Japanese, the hiragana and children might write only in hiragana until they learn kanji. But the standard newspaper, standard books have their kanji, and then the hiragana, some words, certain combinations of words, then have hiragana.
if
But
you can
yeah,
see this
you would-
here, it's a combination of
Yeah.
both.
Got it. And the reason I asked that is because I'm wondering if there are idioms or certain meanings, especially from kanji to English, where we lose
Absolutely.
something huge in the translation.
Oh,
I have an
yes.
entire book that is all it is idioms.
Wow.
Yeah, and because kanji have their own, you know, they're not just they're
Right,
both a
right.
sound and also a meaning, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's onyomi and kunyomi. We don't need to do a Japanese lesson, but they have special meaning, and one of the wonderful things about Japanese poetry is that it can have a very different meaning with the kanji you choose. So I mean, and so I would imagine, even though I probably can only read 300 or 400 kanji now. I used to be able to, back in the day when I was living in Japan, I could read a newspaper. Now, no. Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that there is some of the challenges in writing, translating, would be to translate an idiom that has a very specific meaning that any Japanese person would understand, but that might not mean a whole lot to Western audiences. And so that translation would be a very interesting thing, like how he does it, and like do you keep the meaning, but because there's also a tone, there's the pacing of the word, there's so much involved in it that I think probably you end up just like kind of translating the meaning or the impact, the emotional impact. But I think that's a fascinating question. Definitely.
Yeah, I can't wait to
Yeah,
hear that.
I'm super curious about that.
That's going to be cool, and you know,
And
this
he
is like
has told me a
unprecedented.
story on that topic. So I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to steal his thunder, but there is a story behind him trying to gauge his ability to translate the novel based on how much written Japanese he had learned. I think I remember my mom telling me once when I was a kid that you needed to be able to understand something like 10,000 kanji to effectively be widely literate.
Wow. Yeah, to read you need to know 2,000 kanji to read a newspaper.
Good
now
God.
that yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's Neal's mentioning the newspaper, and then there's really just, if you're looking at historical Japanese literature, there's a lot of...
Yeah. Historical Japanese, also Japanese has gone through 3 or 4 changes, just like English, right? And so the kanji was simplified at various points in time as well. But that also, the flavor of like if you're reading like from the Heian period, right? Like the Heiki Monogatari, right? The meanings in there and the references that they have, much like in English, right? If you read, the Icelandic tales, there are things in the Icelandic tales that we might understand the words of, but we don't understand the meaning, the additional meaning that those words, those references carry. And so, yeah, and I know a prolific writer like Kikuchi is probably very much aware of that and embed some of that in. So I really wish I could read the
Right.
Vampire Hunter D in Japanese, because I
Same
think
here.
it would be an additional layer. Like earlier, in the previous episode, we were talking about the differences between what we really loved about the movie and the book, and what we kind of wished had carried over. And one of the things that I would love is I'm sure that there's also a little bit missing in that translation.
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't carry over because the average Westerner doesn't understand aspects of Japanese culture that are embedded in the writing. And
And I would put
there's so much you lose.
Yeah, I would put a cap on it just to say, don't feel bad if you can't, because you ever try reading the Federalist Papers in its original format?
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Because F and S's and all these other words, even the Declaration of Independence, I mean, it's true. There are changes based on the era. So
Yep.
I can't wait for this interview. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I agree with Brandon, if you're like me and you really struggle with learning other languages, I don't know why that I really struggle with it. Math and science was always easy for me. If I can tell you movies and books that I read when I was a little kid or saw when I was a little kid, and languages, no, I struggle. So I am so grateful to the people who have the talent and take the time to be able to translate these works, because without that, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy anime over the years, or Vampire Hunter D, or Legend of Galactic Heroes. Actually, I'm glad a bunch of those books made it to English. So
they all did. I have
they
it
all
sitting
did.
right over here. I think it was 10 of them. All
okay,
10
I've
were
got the
translated.
first. I want to say I think I've got the first 4.
Yep.
So
they're all available on Amazon, and I bought them all to support it because I did have the gray market version of the original anime.
Yeah, I remember getting the online translation version of the Overlord web novel before it was. You couldn't get it anywhere for the love of money other than that. So when it came out, I remember like, sweet, all right, the books are available in English now. I can buy those. Hey, all right, it's gonna get an adaptation. I can go watch it on Crunchyroll. So yeah, thank you for everyone who is good at translation and linguistics, who's helped share the love of some of these stories with us.
And also thanks to all our Patreon folks and our Discord folks. Really appreciate
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
If you want to come
absolutely.
join us, please join us. Check out the links for that. We greatly appreciate your support, and I've really enjoyed interacting with people on Discord since we launched it. It's been a lot of fun. So thank you all.
Thank you for listening to Lefty Speaks, the official Vampire Hunter D podcast, hosted by Brandon Easton, Neal Fischer, and Scott McLean. This podcast is created by Unified Pictures and 9 Realms. Narration by Lauren Evallen-Muller. Recording and editing by 9 Realms. Produced by Scott McLean and Ian E. Muller. Based on the works created by Hideyuki Kikuchi. Happy hunting.